I'm Brent Roth with Navy MWR, and I'm going to talk about a few of the products that we have in the stand-up paddleboard area. We've got some inflatable supboards and some rigid stand-up paddleboards. Inflatable ones, we've got some new ones and some older ones that are great for beginners. They're long, really wide boards. Even if you're not a beginner and you want to paddle out with either your dog or your kids, that's a really great board to take some people out on. We've got these new boards that are a little bit bigger and really great for beginners as well. Then moving into the rigid boards are definitely going to glide across the water a little bit better. If you want to try to get some mileage in for exercise, the rigid boards are a great way to go. Rigid boards are a little bit more difficult to transport. We'll go over that a little bit later. These inflatable boards will roll up and go into a bag about the size of a backpack to go in the trunk of your car. So come on down and see what we got, and let's get you out on the water. So I'm gonna go over real quick how to put a PFD on. PFDs are really not just important to wear, but I really like wearing them just because I'm really lazy. And when I'm out in the water, I just like floating around and enjoying my time in the water and not having to worry about swimming. And it's a much better way to enjoy the lake or wherever you're at. One of the things that I do is make sure all the straps are completely loose, and then I put it on loosely, and then I try to pay attention to how many buckles there are. You want to make sure you get all the buckles. It's really important you get the one on the bottom. I like to start that one first because it's easy to see, and then I work my way up and I try to count. Okay, that was 1, 2 buckles. And I don't have any buckles on this side. Once I get those buckles in, I can grab both of these straps and grab them and pull them forward and do the same thing with the bottom one. It's really nice to start with those, cinch those in before I do these. That way I don't have to worry about riding up too high. And when I'm in the water, I don't have to worry about it being around my neck, which can be uncomfortable. So I cinch that bottom one down pretty snug, the next one in, not to where it's uncomfortable, and then I pull these shoulder straps down just to pull it in nice and tight. Now I got a properly fitted PFD and I'm ready to go hang out in the water. So now I'm going to go over a little bit of preparation on the board. I'm going to start with putting the leash on. The leash is really important to use, even in slow, calm water, because if I fall off the board, sometimes they can get pushed away from me, and it's just a lot easier to keep track of my board no matter what the conditions are. So I'm going to attach it to the board. A lot of times they come with a Velcro configuration like this, and there will be a small leash lanyard or D-ring in the back of the board like this. I'm going to pass this through, fold this in half. And at the halfway mark is where I want that lanyard to be, just like that. I'm going to put that Velcro together, this Velcro together, and then capture it just like that. And then that'll pull on down to the bottom, and I've installed my leash. So the next thing I'm going to do after I put my leash on is go ahead and put my fins on my board. Inflatable boards have a slide-on fin that are pretty easy to put on. This is the back of the fin that goes to the back of the board, and the fin slides from the front of the board to the back. There's a little T-slot down in here. I'm going to place the fin in and slide it to the back, and then this little locking mechanism slides in from here, and your board's ready to go. So a lot of our paddles are adjustable in length. What I'm looking for when I adjust it is make sure the end of the paddle is on the same level surface that I'm standing on flat-footed. I'm going to reach up as high as I can, and right about that corrects where I can bend my wrist over the top. That's where I want to go ahead and lock it down. When you lock it down, make sure that the T-handle is aligned with the blade, and a lot of paddles have an indicator so you can get it lined up correctly. Now that I've got my board ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and attach this leash to my PFD. Putting it on my PFD keeps it off the surface of the water so the leash doesn't drag in the water as much when I'm trying to paddle. And it makes for a much more comfortable paddle. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to find one of those straps on my PFD, and I'm going to take it, I'm going to curl this up nice and tight, and I'm going to lay that Velcro on there just like that. And what this does is this is also a quick release mechanism that in the event I want to separate myself from the board and the leash, if I just pull on that Velcro, it's easy to get away from my board. So now I'm ready to carry my board down to the water. I'm going to pick it up just like carrying a suitcase or file underneath your arm, and I'm going to walk down to the water. When I get to the water, I'm going to want to put the back of the board in the water first because the fins are there and I want them in the deep water. The stand-up part is a lie. This is just a paddleboard. So the first thing that I'm gonna do when I go out on it, paddle it from my knees. This is a great way to start. I get a lot of control. I don't have to worry about falling. I can move away from the shallow water really quick and easy. I could tour the whole lake like this if I want to. And it's also really good to get people to realize that they don't have to get up on the board and standing right away. So it helps that learning curve for people that maybe are nervous about falling in or just don't have coordination. I can paddle this along just fine from my knees. So just go ahead, back your board up to where the fins aren't hitting the rocks, and climb aboard and start off on your knees. Let's talk about these paddles and why they have this goofy shape to them and how do I properly hold it. So if you notice, a lot of stand-up paddleboard paddles have this funny little angle at the bottom. They are not symmetrical. So the part that is now pointing up goes forward of the board. And you'll notice that a lot of the T-grips are designed, it'll feel more comfortable in the hand one way than the other, but it's that bent curve part, if I put it up and down in the water, is how this paddle is designed to be used. And that bend in the blade is what makes the blade easier to take out of the water when I recover for another paddle stroke. So now that you got your paddle in the right configuration and paddled around a little bit from your knees, let's go ahead and talk about how to stand up. I'm gonna start by placing my knees over the center handle here, which is the center of the board. I'm gonna put my paddle across the front of the board like this. It's good to have it offset because that paddle in the water can give me some more stability. I'm gonna go up into kind of a yoga position and slowly walk my feet forward, keeping them about shoulder width apart, and then stand straight up on the board. And standing straight up on the board, bringing the paddle with me, and then getting the paddle in the water as soon as I can. That gives me that stability just like a tripod. And that's how you should start, by standing up on your supboard. Falling off your paddleboard is normal, and when it happens, try to fall away from your board. This is where your leash becomes useful to get back to your board. Once you're back to your board, get to the side, put your paddle on top, grab the handle, and pull yourself up. Climb up however you need to, and get yourself situated to stand back up. Place your paddle across the board, get your feet underneath you, and stand straight up, and you're off and ready to go. Great memories start with MWR. For more information, visit NavyLifePNW.com. All right, look at that. I got a bunch of people standing on boards already.